Welcome back to Afternoon Garage. Yay, got this thing back again. So, passed it off to somebody, they drove it down the road. They decided to take it on a pretty good long road trip out of town. And of course it failed. I think one of my previous videos I had said that a couple different things. Number one, I had no idea what the mileage was when I purchased the car because the guy wasn't honest with me. The instrument cluster didn't work and he told me it had close to 100,000 miles, and that just wasn't true. So here we are, we have a car that's got 170,000 miles on it. And at the time that I got it, had a slipping transmission when you made right-hand corners. So that turned out to be the filter fell down on the bottom of the pan, which isn't a good situation, but it was an easy fix. I don't know how long it was like that. So the transmission could have been just intermittently slipping here and there, and of course what that does is it reduces your line pressure. When your line pressure gets reduced, the steels and the frictions actually end up not getting enough pressure to fully engage, and then you end up with slipping, end up with a problem like this. So I dropped the pan again to see if the filter came off, and no luck there. Also, the fluid looks pretty bad, and it smells pretty bad. So another thing I said in one of my other videos was this cost me $200 in fluids to put new fluids in this thing at the time that I put the filter in. So it's kind of disappointing to know that, well, I toasted $200 worth of fluids. So the thing to do now is put the pan back on. I'm going to get it back onto the lift and take the transmission down and see what I see. I was going to do a line pressure test, and that might be a handy thing to do before I completely disassemble the transmission to find out exactly what my line pressure is. There's a tap on the side of the pump on the transmission there. Might be able to fire it up and put it in neutral and see what kind of line pressure I get when in drive or reverse. But it's kind of weird that drive and reverse both failed. Unfortunately, I wasn't at the car at the time, so there's really no telling. Was it slipping before this all started? There was some information that maybe the slipping had occurred long before that, but I don't know. The best thing to do is check the line pressure, and I believe we're going to be pulling this transmission down and doing like a quick rebuild. We'll see how that goes. Anyway, stay tuned. Wow, that kind of gets hairy when you're trying to winch car into the garage and the safety comes off of the winch. Wasn't a big deal. You can see I was able to catch it, but man, that'll make your heart stop a little bit. So anyway, this is the next day. I got the car up on the lift. The car's been in the garage here, you know, all night long. And it smells really funny in the garage here. So, guess I gotta look into that. Well, it would appear in the 24 hours that I didn't have this car that something got spilled in here. So, did a little research and contacted the person that got the car and found out that there was some milk that was poured on the driver's seat and then left there to bake into the heat. Well, this thing smells like vomit. Really bad now. I'm just amazed that in 24 hours you can manage to spin all the clutches in a transmission and make the interior smell like vomit. These have a lot of plastic in them, so when I let this car go out of here, you know, I did took the seats out, did a full upholstery clean all the way around, and when I did that, you know, it exposed a lot of the new plastic. This thing smelled like a new car inside there. Now it smells like a vomit machine. It's gonna be a long project. Another thing is this. When this car wasn't on the lift, the car that was on it before was an electric car, and I was getting really excited to tear the batteries out of it and do some battery work with some modules on a modern electric vehicle. Well, this is going to stall that project. I'm really happy about having to fix this car because when the car left here, it's a perfectly good running and driving vehicle, and then now it smells like vomit and transmission screwed. First thing I need to do is get the upholstery cleaner out, clean that interior out, probably have to pull the seats out, figure out exactly where the source of that smell is, and then continue and go on from there. Really kind of excited to get to the electric car, so I think what I'll do is, won't be filming much of this. You know, every one of these videos takes probably 60 to 80 hours to make, and you know, if I have to do a transmission video and a transmission removal video, well, that's going to detract from what I really want to do, which is work on that electric car. So I'm just going to kind of go over the highlights and, you know, kind of what I find when I disassemble the transmission. I'll show you exactly what I find inside, take it out, put it back in, get this thing out of here, and move forward. So really all that has to happen is you have to take the drive shaft off here. This cross member, maybe this exhaust pipe, maybe this one. And then your linkage there. Some electrical connectors. You have some coolant lines that are probably going to be a little tricky to get off. I'm going to make sure and not mess those up. And torque converter bolts, starter, that kind of thing. Lots of videos online about this. Well, you can see I got the transmission disassembled here on the bench, all cleaned up and inspected. I don't know why I thought it was going to be an easy rebuild, but I remember saying something like, and doing like a quick rebuild. Yeah, that didn't happen. This is a Ford AOD transmission, more specifically 4R75W transmission. 75 means the planetary gear set's capable of handling 750 foot-pounds of torque. It's pretty good for a passenger car. This thing had quite a few problems. Let me show you what I found. Well, we'll start here with this valve body. I believe this is what caused the problem. This valve right here is called the pressure regulator valve. It was stuck wide open. So, if you know anything about hydraulics, what happens is they don't really regulate the pressure. What they do is they bleed off pressure to regulate the pressure inside of these transmissions, inside of pretty much anything hydraulic. So, I'd be willing to bet that that valve cost me the problem. Still waiting on that part. This caused all kinds of other damage. These are the reverse clutches here. You can see what a normal clutch and plate is supposed to look like. It's pretty good friction material on here. Nothing's blued or burnt. Put your head over here to these clutches. This is pretty much what's responsible for the forward drive of the vehicle. And you can see they're really discolored. Very little friction material left on these friction discs here. So all these had to be replaced. Intermediate clutches, they look pretty good. Nothing real wrong there, just some bluing around the edges, but I guess that's pretty normal. Then another problem I found was this. This here is a one-way diode. This here is the reverse drum here. And also this is what the overdrive band will go around the outside of this. This is the one that came off. You can see the snap ring here. It's pretty much failed. Wouldn't cause any other erratic operation other than the fact that it's going to chew up this washer here that's right behind the pump. Now to keep this snap ring from flying off again, they have this spacer here you put down and a spiral snap ring. Pretty ingenious. Keeps it from coming off. But more importantly, the scoring that was here on the side. The overdrive band was in really bad shape. And I don't really attribute the scoring to be a bad overdrive band, as much as there maybe got something inside the transmission that caused this scoring on this drum. This is unacceptable. This was purchased. This is a used part here. You can see it's nice and smooth. Has a brand new one-way diode on it. That was kind of damaged. It wasn't really attributed to anything that had to do with the failure of the pressure regulator. Everything else was pretty good. Everything was inspected. Everything was really tight. There's some bushings in here that had to be driven out and replaced. That's not too bad. Everything else was good with the valves here. Everything else was good. Nothing was torn that I could see. Linkage was all right. this electrical connector which connects the pressure solenoid and the torque converter lockup seem to be okay. And then we get down to this part here. This is a direct drum. So typically what you have is you have a piston type scenario. You know, you replace the seals on the piston. This is actually torn apart now. What I found was this. This is called an intermediate shaft. This is fairly common on these. This is the part that came out of it. Kind of floppy, and what happens is those splines will wear out right there. This whole thing will strip out there, and then not only do you get trash inside the transmission, of course it won't go anywhere anymore. This is the new part here. See, it's nice and tight. So you really want to go and replace parts like this if you see it. Even though it's not a problem now, it could be a problem in the future. Case was nice and good, just cleaned it up. Put a nice coat of paint on it. Test these solenoids here, they appeared to be alright. So, in summary, other than the direct drum here, maybe some bushings here, these clutch parts here, this reverse drum here, and the cause of the problem here, the pressure regulator, that's a lot of parts. This is going to be an expensive rebuild. So now looking at all these parts, you can see there was a lot of damaged parts inside this transmission. You know, a rebuilt used transmission is going to probably cost you $2,000, $2,500. Probably going to rebuild this thing, I thought, for $500, but the price keeps on going up and up and up as I find more and more parts that I need to change. Get yourself a nice rebuild kit, something with all the bushings in it, something with the band in it. You're not going to get the reverse band, you have to purchase that separately. But make sure and get a new overdrive band. Make sure and soak everything in transmission fluid before you put it back together. It should be alright. I'm really done with this project. It's about 2 weeks in getting parts and getting everything together, cleaning it all up, finding out exactly what's wrong. My recommendation is this. Do an inspection of everything, order everything you need initially. And also, there's a reason why I didn't put another transmission video out on the internet. It's because there's too many of them to begin with. But if you watch the videos and compare them to mine, I have all the common symptoms of a failure of this transmission. So it's about time for me to start putting this thing back together, get this car off the lift and on the road. So if you like this content, please subscribe. Till next time.